A woman's past and present collide in a cruel twist of fate. Once, Jiang Shi stood on a stage of flowers, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, a symbol of hope and a future that never was. Beside her stood Xiao Beichen, the man who was her husband, his handsome face a mask of cold indifference. Now, years later, that memory is nothing but a phantom. She has been forcibly returned to his world, not as a wife, but as a prisoner bound by a single desperate hope. A mysterious phone call had set the stage, a threat delivered with chilling precision. Return Jiang Shi within 3 days, or face the consequences of past deeds. And so she was brought back, standing before the man who held the key to her entire world. She believed that by submitting to his will, by walking back into this gilded cage, he would finally return her child. But Xiao Beichen made it clear from the first moment that she was in no position to negotiate. He stood at the top of the grand staircase, a figure of absolute authority, looking down on her with undisguised contempt. In his eyes, she was no longer the woman he married, but a problem to be managed. He decreed her new role with a single, devastating command. She was to be a maid in the Zhao family home. A blue uniform was thrust into her hands, a physical manifestation of her fall from grace. Her identity as his wife was erased, replaced by servitude. Her only reason for enduring this humiliation was the thought of her daughter. She pleaded to see her, arguing that she had done as he asked and returned. But he met her pleas with a wall of ice. He questioned why she deserved such a privilege for doing nothing more than what she was told. The argument escalated, a painful dance of past wounds and present torment. He still clung to the belief that the child wasn't his, a bitter poison that had soured their history. He grabbed her, his touch not one of affection, but of control, reminding her of the 5-year-old accusation that he had caught her with another man. The raw agony of their shared history filled the space between them. She insisted she would not explain that old, fabricated story again, urging him to get a paternity test if he truly wanted the truth. She warned him that the truth would only make him regret his cruelty later. His response was to tighten his grip, his fingers wrapping around her throat in a moment of raw fury. He warned her that any defiance would endanger the very child she sought to protect. The threat hung in the air, a testament to his absolute power over her life. He reveled in her pain, admitting that while he didn't believe the child was his, he would gladly pretend just to witness her suffering. He saw her not as a person, but as a tool for his own twisted satisfaction, a permanent fixture in his life to be tormented at his leisure. This brutal dynamic was the new reality, a cruel game where the only prize was a glimpse of her daughter, and the price was her dignity. The cruelty was not his alone. His mother, Wang Qin, soon arrived, her presence adding another layer of hostility to the oppressive atmosphere. Seeing Jiang Shi in the house, she reacted with theatrical disgust, refusing to acknowledge a murderer as her daughter-in-law. Xiao Beichen, with a cynical smirk, presented the situation as a practical benefit, noting they had acquired a free servant. The mother's initial shock gave way to reluctant acceptance when a new guest arrived. Su Jin, the woman who had taken Jiang Shi's place at Xiao Beichen's side, walked in, completing the trio of tormentors. The alliance was immediate and absolute. At the dinner table, the scene became a carefully orchestrated performance of psychological warfare. Wang Qin lavished praise on Su Jin, celebrating her gentle nature and kind heart, every word a deliberate jab at Jiang Shi, who stood silently by. The charade of civility soon shattered. When a servant brought a glass of water, Su Jin feigned clumsiness, spilling it and immediately blaming Jiang Shi. Wang Qin, playing her part, called Jiang Shi a venomous snake and admonished Su Jin for being too kind-hearted to see her true nature. The command was given without hesitation. Jiang Shi was to kneel and wipe the floor. As she knelt, her spirit crushed under the weight of the humiliation, Su Jin extended her foot, her shoe now conveniently in the path of the spill. Xiao Beichen, who had been watching the entire spectacle with detached amusement, then delivered the final blow. He ordered Jiang Shi to clean Su Jin's shoes as well. It was a moment of profound degradation, a public display designed to break her completely, witnessed by the very people who had orchestrated her downfall. Her compliance was not a choice, but a necessity, each movement a silent testament to the love for the child she was desperate to see. Later that evening, the torture took on a more intimate and sinister form. Xiao Beichen cornered her outside the bathroom, informing her that her work was not yet done. He declared that her job description was whatever he decided it was, and that night it included bathing him. She recoiled, stating that this was not the work of a maid. He then dangled the one thing she could not resist. He promised that if she served him well, he would let her see her daughter the very next day. The proposition was monstrous, a demand for her body in exchange for a moment with a child. He forced himself upon her, his actions driven not by desire but by a perverse need to see her broken. He confessed that seeing her forced to endure his touch, her face a mask of revulsion and despair, was a pleasure that outweighed any disgust he felt. It was the ultimate act of control, a violation meant to strip away the last vestiges of her self-worth. Yet, something in that night of cruelty seemed to shift within him. The next morning, a flicker of doubt appeared to cross his mind. He looked at the sleeping form of the woman he had just brutalized, a complex expression on his face. He then sought out Sue Jean, his tone urgent and demanding. He asked a question that changed everything. "Where's the child?" Sue Jean, caught off guard, admitted the girl was in an orphanage. The news galvanized him. The man who had denied his own daughter for years was now determined to bring her home. This sudden change sent ripples of panic through his family. Wang Qin and Sue Jean saw his actions not as a father's awakening, but as a threat. They feared he would reunite the child with Jiang Shi, undoing their carefully constructed world. They began to conspire, their whispers filled with venom, determined to keep mother and child apart. The child was soon brought to the sprawling, cold mansion, a small, innocent figure in a world of predators. The abuse was immediate. Wang Qin and Sue Jean descended upon her, their words like stones. They derided her for her silence, calling her a stupid thing who didn't even know how to greet her elders. When the frightened child accidentally dropped the bowl, their anger intensified. She was a little bastard, a clumsy oaf who deserved to be punished. As Jiang Shi watched, helpless, her own daughter was cast out, forced to stand alone in the cold as punishment. The scene then moved to the yard, where the simmering tensions finally exploded. Jiang Shi rushed to her daughter's side, trying to shield her from the verbal assault. Sue Jean snatched the child away, claiming she was the one who had painstakingly raised her. Wang Qin joined the fray, her voice dripping with self-righteous fury. She accused Jiang Shi of being the one who had abandoned her baby in a trash can, a monster who now dared to play the victim. The dam of Jiang Shi's composure finally broke. She screamed the truth that had been buried for 5 long years. She pointed a trembling finger at Sue Jean, accusing her of murdering her sister, of framing her for the crime, of forcing her through childbirth only to steal her baby and have her thrown into prison. It was a torrent of pain and rage. The full, horrifying story laid bare for all to hear. At that moment, Xiao Beichin appeared. But instead of justice, he brought only more pain. He ignored her desperate accusations and chastised her for causing scene. He coldly reminded her of their deal. He had promised she could see her child, nothing more. He had fulfilled his end of the bargain. She was not to touch her. His words were the final crushing blow. Jiang Shi fell to her knees, begging, pleading for just one moment to hold her daughter. But her cries met only the cold, unyielding wall of her tormentors, her desperate love used as the ultimate weapon against her, leaving her utterly alone in a battle that had only just begun.